Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Jessie, and welcome back to another episode of Rewire to Inspire. This show where we'll dive into self-love, learn tangible ways to rewire the brain, and discovering your soul's purpose. The goal of Rewire to Inspire is to encourage listeners to begin doing the hard work, to get curious and open to maximizing your life. Our mindset shapes how we live. Depending on life events, traumas, and personal experiences, our mindsets are all vastly different. However, one thing we all have in common is the ability to rewire our mind, to change the narrative, and to pivot our lives. I hope you leave each episode with the belief that you are so worthy to live a life true to you. I look forward to chatting with you every single Tuesday and Thursday and helping you grow exponentially in all areas of your life. Without further ado, here's today's episode. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to my podcast, Rewire to Inspire. I am your host, Jessie Brown, and as you can tell by my energy and my voice, I am super, super excited and thrilled to be jumping on the microphone with you all for episode number 141. If you missed last episode number 140, I definitely encourage you to listen to that one because that is part one of today's episode, which is part two of reasons why you're not healing. Inevitably, my goal in the beginning was to have this all in one episode. However, there was just so much to unpack. And so I wanted to make sure I gave it the love, light, and time that it deserves and broke it into two episodes. And so we have a two-parter coming out. And so today we are going to continue off of our list, running through numbers 8 through 15 of reasons why we don't heal. And so I want you to, again, as I mentioned in the last episode, for you guys to ask yourself, before I dive into these, what does healing mean to you? When I say that sentence, reasons why we don't heal, what comes up for you? What surfaces for you? What does your mind tell you? What is your reason that comes up? Because as I reiterated, these are 15 reasons that I thought of because I've seen these time and time again. I've experienced some of these. These are a lot of reasons that I see clients hesitant to work on themselves because these things surface. And a lot of these things are happening subconsciously, meaning we don't even know that they're happening. And if we haven't identified that something is controlling us subconsciously, it's almost impossible for us to take action. And so my goal of this is by highlighting all these 15 reasons, and I'm sure eventually down the line I'll be able to think of more because there's just so many reasons in which we don't want to heal ourselves. But my goal is that even one of these lights up something in your mind of, oh, that might be my reason. That might be my truth. Now what can I do with that? My goal of this is not to shame you, to blame you, to make you feel less than, but instead to hopefully inspire you that you're not alone in this, and that even just the fact that I was able to list 15 reasons so easily, there's a lot of reluctancy to healing and to looking at our past and to putting away those traumas, as I explained on the last episode. There's a reason in which we're talking about this. If it wasn't common, I wouldn't be talking about it. And so I want you to be gentle on yourself if I read any of these and you're like, oh crap, yup, that's me. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel shameful. Instead, ask yourself, okay, what can I now do with this new awareness? When we get new awareness, we can either act on it or we can suppress it. But what if you're hearing this exactly when you are because you're supposed to? What if this is exactly what your heart and soul is needing to hear to give yourself that permission to take the first step? I want you to know that you're not alone in this. I don't care who you are. Looking and facing your past and healing it and acknowledging it is one of the hardest things that we can do as humans, and I do thoroughly believe that. That is why so many of us don't, and why so many of us cope and we suppress and we pretend it doesn't exist. So if you are here and you are listening and you are tuning in, I want you to know that just through that, you are so unique and you are so worthy to heal your stuff so that you can live in harmony, at peace, and in the most aligned way possible. So without further ado, let's continue down our list of reasons why we don't heal. So number 8, the 8th one that I wrote down, this one's powerful, and this came up yesterday on a coaching call. You don't believe that it could ever get better. Wow. So many people hold that belief. Because why would you heal and go through the mud of dealing with all your past if you don't believe it's going to be worth it? If you don't believe it's actually going to get better? The answer is you won't, because why would you? If we don't believe as human beings that something is possible, we're not going to take action. We're not going to do the things. And so if you don't believe that it could ever get better, there's no reason, there's not enough necessity to go do the work. And so if you hold this belief that you don't believe it could ever get better, I want you to ask yourself, what is the protector part beneath that? Do you genuinely believe that it could never get better? Or is it just because your whole experiences and realities have been showing you that same belief and narrative for a really long time? I have an episode coming out on Thursday all about what if. What if it can go better than you thought? What if it turns out better than you could have ever imagined? What if it can get better? What if it can get better and will get better over time? I can pretty much promise you that it will get better even by 1% by focusing on it than by suppressing it. We can try to cover it up. We can try to pretend it doesn't exist. That does not make it better. Unfortunately, it is the harder path of bringing light to it and working on it that we're able to store it properly, that we can then start to heal. But that is definitely a huge reason that I see all the time. And like I said, I seen this with my client yesterday. She said, this has just been my reality for so long, and I've kind of built my identity around it. I've kind of become okay with it. And I'm like, okay, well, as long as you've become okay with it, you will stay there. But if there is even a part of you, I asked her, is there even a part of you, even like a little part, like we did some IFS stuff, is there even a little part of you that's like wanting and craving a different narrative and a different dialogue for yourself? And she said, yes. I'm like, okay, then there's hope there. Now we got to figure out what this protector part is holding you back from doing that. And then we can start to do the work there. But I want you to know that if you don't believe that it could get any better, life will get any better, it won't. Because you won't look for the ways in which it can. Number 9, you're still in an environment where healing doesn't seem possible. If you are still actively in an environment that is, abusive, traumatizing, reminds you of your trauma, has similar, characteristics of experiences you've had in the past, healing is not going to seem possible. But furthermore, if you are around people that do not normalize healing, don't talk about it, don't work on it, it's really hard to be the outcast. And I know this because that is 100% me and my family. I was the first one who decided to do the deep work, so much so that I decided to study it and make a career out of it. I went a little far, which I love and I'm passionate about. But I was definitely the first one to change the narrative. But there was so many parts of me for so long that when I was still in my same home environment, I didn't think healing was possible. And in fact, it wasn't. If we are still actively in an environment, in a space and in a state where all of our external factors are still reiterating all those internal triggers and beliefs, healing is nearly impossible. That's why when I have clients who are still in violent situations with abusive partners and abusive environments, it's really just about holding space and getting them till tomorrow. The deeper work really can't start until we're out of that environment, because that is literally a prime example of taking 1 step forward, 2 steps backwards. It's going to be really hard for your nervous system to calm itself down for a second to then go right back into a state of overdrive and overwhelm. So if you are still, and you need to assess this for yourself, if you are in an environment where you do not feel that you are set up to be supported to begin to work on healing, that might be the first step. But know that you can still get support with that. I had supported many, many clients of helping them get out of an environment to then start to do the deeper stuff. But you have to focus on what is happening first at hand. But knowing that if you're in an environment where healing doesn't seem possible for you, that is going to be the first step, is to get out of that environment and to change what's around you, and know that that can take time, and it's okay to, like I said, work with a professional, work with a counselor, work with a therapist who can help you to, assess that and to support you in getting out of that environment so that you can begin to do the work. And yes, there is some work that can be done while we're still in those spaces, but it's obviously not ideal because our nervous system is then being kind of torn in multiple different areas. Number 10, this is bringing up that protector part again. So your protector part is telling you, I'm fine. When we have undergone trauma, experiences, we've formed the belief that we have to just be okay. We will put up a shield, put up a wall, put up a protector that we're fine. This was my narrative for so much of my life. I've shared the story before about how it wasn't until I got into my role as a counselor at a sexual assault healing center that I was like, oh, I actually have a lot of stuff in my past that I've neglected. I haven't shed light on. I hadn't validated. Because here's the thing is, our experiences are all we know. And so we get really good at telling ourselves a story that it wasn't as bad as it was because it's a way of coping in a way. If we don't allow ourselves to fully know the depth in which something hurt us, we can avoid the deep pain associated. So by telling ourselves that it wasn't as bad as we thought, that we're fine, oh, it's okay, it is what it is, it was in the past, that's a protector part that has been built to keep you safe. I know exactly what it's like to not know where to turn, to feel alone, helpless, and stuck. My goal as a coach is to help clients from a trauma-informed perspective see your worth and develop self-belief so you may chase your dreams and trust your intuition to live the most aligned, fulfilling life possible. If you're looking to elevate your life to the next level but aren't sure where to start, I would absolutely love to connect. If you're feeling pulled or curious, please use the link in the show notes below to book your free call. I look forward to connecting and supporting you on your own unique journey. And I know this because now looking back, I'm like, I don't hold the same narrative about my past as I did a couple of years ago. But that's because now I'm in a healthy, safe place where I can do that. But I didn't realize that for so long I held up that wall because I also didn't want anybody else to know that I was struggling. I had a deep fear of projecting my emotions onto other people, and so I got really, really good at masking them. We can become so good at masking them that we actually flip our internal dialogue and we trick our own mind in a way of thinking that it didn't impact us, while knowing that physiologically it's gonna come out somewheres because that doesn't just disappear. But that is definitely a huge reason I see all the time, especially in men, why we don't heal is because we're like, I'm fine, I'm tough, I got it all together. It's like, you don't have to be fine. You don't have to be all macho man. Like, you're allowed to acknowledge that experiences hurt you, that it wasn't always easy, that your experiences are valid. And just because, like, let's say, for example, you're still really, really close to your parents, but you had experiences in the past where your parents hurt you, you're actually only amplifying that hurt by not acknowledging that it hurt you. Just because you're in a better place now doesn't mean that certain things didn't have an impact on you. And when we are children and when we are growing up, what we experience is our whole world. It's easier as adults to kind of like have that macro perspective, but as children, we are very micro. All we can see is our immediate surroundings. And so if our immediate surroundings are making us feel some type of way, you have to know that that has shaped your personality, shaped how you show up, has shaped your vulnerability and how you communicate emotions and how you reiterate to other people how you're feeling. If you've had to suppress things your whole life, you likely struggle with vocalizing how you're feeling and asking for what you're needing. Okay, and so we all go on different spectrums of this. Some of us kind of shut down that inner dialogue, and other of us are very, very loud and vocal about what we need. So we're all on different spectrums, and we all have to acknowledge for ourselves where we're at with this. But by just saying that you're fine and that there's no pain It's so not true, and all it's doing is protecting you. So acknowledge that that has served you, but also acknowledge that in some ways that is holding you back from healing and storing those memories appropriately. Number 11, this kind of comes into what I just mentioned, but you were raised to suck it up. This is just how it is. Be tough, deal with it. I don't care. Don't cry. Get it together. This isn't how we act. So much of that comes from projection from our parents that they likely got projected onto them as children. If you were brought up in an environment where you needed to suck it up and there was an expectation to just be a certain way, you will hold that wound deep within you, some of us for our whole life. If you've been taught that the only way to deal with your emotions is to suck it up, you are likely going to be very reluctant to ever go to therapy, because that would mean that you are probably weak, right? Because if you've had to suck it up your whole life, that means your emotions were not validated. If your emotions were not validated, you probably don't have a really, really strong relationship with them. And that's okay. That's the thing, you guys, is it's like we can acknowledge these past parts, and it's like, okay, it makes sense. I say all the time, it's an explanation, not an excuse. If you were raised in an environment where you had to suck it up, think about now how much you are likely projecting that onto the people around you. Let's say, for example, you get into a new relationship and your mindset is suck it up. And you have a partner on the other end who's dealing with something and is being vulnerable, and your mindset and your belief is you just kind of need to suck it up and figure it out. Think how unvalidated that other person's going to feel. Now I want you to come back to your own system. When your body is trying to tell you to feel emotions and you're telling yourself to suck it up, you're neglecting yourself over and over and over again. And until you acknowledge that and know that none of us are just designed to suck it up. Our nervous systems are not designed to just suppress. We need to feel our emotions. We have to in a lot of ways, because if we don't, inevitably they will catch up and take over. And so that is a huge reason and component why a lot of people don't heal, is because you grew up in an environment where healing was taboo. It was not talked about. It made you less than. It made you weak. And you had to just suck it up and be okay with it. Number 12, you don't know where to start. You don't have to know where to start, is my answer to this. But so many of us are like, the amount of clients that I used to have jump on a call or come in my office and be like, okay, so I got like all this stuff, but like, I don't know where to start. And I'm like, okay, let's just start with right now with how you are and go from there. I've had so many people tell me their reluctancy to go see a therapist because they're like, I don't know where to start or what to tell them. That's their job. It's their job to support you with that. And that is the most common thing I seen all the time is, well, I don't know where to start. There's actually so much that I don't know where to go. And I would typically say, okay, if you were to think of one event right off the top of your head or experience, what would it be? And then we hammer from there. And you'd be surprised how much stuff comes out from just that one question. You don't have to know where to start to get started. Even just acknowledging that you'd like to focus on healing and you'd like to focus on prioritizing that, you're already gaining momentum. You're already starting. You've already started. If you have that awareness of wanting to heal, the journey's already begun. Now it's just about continuing to ride the wave. It's about continuing to show up while being gentle with yourself. So if you don't know where to start, I encourage you to maybe seek external support to guide you with that, to hold your hand, if you will, in a loving way and not in a childish way, but to support you each and every step of the journey, and knowing that you don't have to do it alone. I think so many of us carry this belief that we need to figure it out for ourselves. You don't. It's okay to reach out for help. In fact, I encourage it. You don't have to know where to start. But I do say you do just need to start. Number 13, you're coping without admitting you're coping. Okay. I have have some reluctancy with this one because this one hits close to home with a lot of my family. In society in general, how many of us cope with things without labeling it as coping? We label it as, oh, it's just fun. Oh, it's just the weekend. Oh, it's the evening. Oh, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Oh, it's happy hour. We label it as all these things, and society's done a really good job at this. But what if, in fact, so many of us are actually just coping? We don't even realize it. And if we don't associate it as being coping, then it's okay. But as soon as somebody's coping becomes an addiction, then we're like, oh, they don't have it figured out. You guys, so many of us cope in many different ways. But until you admit to yourself that's one of my favorite questions I could ask a client dealing with an addiction is, how is it serving your life? What is it filling for you? Because it's almost always filling a void. I don't care if it's drugs, alcohol, sex, money, shopping, food, fitness, whatever it is serving you in some way. It is doing something for you. It is making you feel something, likely something that you didn't really get to experience for a lot of your life, or something that you're craving, something that is missing in your life. But until you're able to admit to yourself that your coping strategies are just that, they're coping strategies, healing likely can't happen. Because if we are in that denial stage, that we have experiences that have hurt us, we won't heal, which is another point that I didn't put on here, so I'll lump it with this one. But if you're in denial about it, you will never shed light on it. That's why we say you can't just tell someone dealing with an addiction to go get help, because if they haven't even admitted to self that it's a problem or it's impacting them, they're not going to go get help. They're not going to work on it. It has to come from self first. And so we need to know and admit to ourselves and have those hard truths with ourselves. And it doesn't mean it's going to change overnight, but just that awareness and self-admitting piece is going to be huge. Number 14, you've tried and been shown it wasn't safe. Let's say, for example, you've tried to get a counselor before, a therapist before, and maybe you were let down. I had so many people come into my space after they had just been hurt time and time again by different healthcare professionals. And again, I'm not hating on other therapists or counselors. I think everybody's doing a wonderful job and trying their best, but unfortunately there is some unethical workers out there. And I had honestly too many clients come in and say that they felt mistreated by previous counselors. And so a huge reason why you might not be healing is because if you've tried to ask for help before and you weren't shown kindness and compassion, you will likely have a reluctancy to that. You might feel like the whole world is out to get you, like nobody cares. I want you to know that that's not the truth, and I want you to know that I'm so sorry if you've ever had that experience. I heard this a lot with clients that were dealing with suicidal ideations where they expressed that they called the crisis line and they just felt let down. And again, we have to also highlight that a lot of those folks are volunteers, and there's so many circumstances that can come into play, but it really does only take one experience or situation to show us that hope cannot exist. And so I encourage you, if this is you, to try again. I promise you that the right, aligned, supportive person exists, but once you stop looking, you will never find them. And again, if that is your truth, I am so sorry that that happened to you. No one deserves to have pain and then feel like their pain is a burden, or that you need to be anything other than just who you are. If you are asking for help and you are willing to show up and to try, I want you to know that you deserve that, and you deserve that tenderness and that love and that care. And maybe this has been an experience with a family member where maybe you've opened up and you've been let down. And so you're like, okay, well, there's no point. I promise you that the right people do care, but once you've given up, you won't find them. And last, but certainly not least, you're waiting for the perfect time. The perfect time to start healing, in my truest truth, is yesterday. There is no perfect time to start this journey. There's no perfect time to start healing. What I will say is it's never too late. It is never too late to ask for help. It is never too late to do the work. It is never too late to try. It is never too late to show up differently. It is never too late to go in your past. It is never too late to heal your past. But so many of us wait for the perfect time, and I'm also guilty of this. Oh, I'll get a therapist tomorrow. I'll do it later. I'll get at it later. Oh, it's not important right now. We need to make it a priority. And we have to know that the best time, if you're thinking about it, is right now. If you're curious and wanting to heal and wanting to start that journey, it is your time. So the perfect time does not exist. Fear will hold you back. Shame will hold you back. Previous experiences will hold you back. Sometimes it's about getting support and accountability, maybe telling a family member, a friend, a partner, whomever, and saying, hey, I'm going to get a therapist. Can you hold me accountable? I really want to do this, but I'm scared. Maybe getting someone to drive you to your first appointment and picking you up after. Maybe making a plan after to do something fun as a little reward. Showing up to the first session is usually the hardest because we have to show our mind and build that trust that it can be a safe place to be and to start that journey. So there is really no perfect time to start. I thoroughly hope you guys enjoyed this 2-part episode about 15 reasons why we don't heal. I hope that it has shed light for you on even one area of your life that maybe you've been suppressing. I hope you know that through all of these reasons, it just shows that you are not alone in your reluctancy to want to turn to your past. It is a hard thing to do, but I also promise you it is so worth it, and you are so deserving of healing your past so that you can come back to your beautiful body. You can live in alignment. I can't help but think that so many of us aren't living in alignment because we don't think we're worthy, and we don't think we're worthy because of past experiences. But if we can rewire and change our brain and inspire ourselves, aka rewire to inspire, our life could look completely different. What if it turns out better than you could have ever imagined? So, sending you guys all so much love. I'm sending my hope from my heart to yours that you can do it. If you're scared or if you're nervous about taking that first step, I encourage you to reach out. I can support you with that. I can be that first step for you if that is in alignment. And I can promise you to help support you in creating that safe space to begin healing and knowing that you are so worthy to heal and to live the most aligned and fulfilling life possible. So thank you guys so much as always. All the love from my heart to yours, and I look forward to chatting with you on Thursday. Bye, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode of Rewire to Inspire. I absolutely love connecting with you all, so make sure you're following me on Instagram. I am at Jessie Brown 13. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to leave a review or share with someone you think would enjoy. I look forward to chatting with you all next episode. And remember, get out of your head and into your heart.